Hey guys and welcome to Facts Induction's first video, the channel that informs and inspires. Today we are going to present to you the top 10 Mercedes Benz models before the 2000s. Number 10, the Mercedes C111. It was a series of experimental cars, or guinea pig if you may, which acted as the gateway to many amazing inventions by the Stuttgart company in the 1960s to the 70s. They tested several new at that time inventions to implement in their mass production cars, such as Wankel engines, diesel engines, and turbochargers. The C111 is one of the 3 cars in Mercedes' lineup to ever have Gullwing doors. Other modern features that were tested include multi-link rear suspensions, luxurious interior with leather trim, and air conditioning. Only 16 cars were ever produced. One of the 3 generations of the C111 used a 4-rotor engine producing 350 horsepower, and it can allegedly reach a speed of 300 kilometers an hour, which was astounding back in the 60s and 70s. Number 9, CLK-GTR. Is it a race car or a road car? Is it even a car? It looks and sounds like a spaceship. Well, it is most certainly a car, but for both the road and track. The invention of the CLK-GTR is primarily for racing and racing only. It was produced for racing in the FIA GT Championship Series in 1997. However, a total of 26 units of street legal cars comprising of 20 coupes and 6 roadsters were produced to meet homologation standards in order to enter the race. Thanks to the enormous 6.9-litre V12 behemoth that spits out 720 horsepower and 778 Nm of torque, the featherweight car, weighing in 1,005 kilograms, is able to sprint from 0 to 60 miles an hour in a mind-boggling 3.1 seconds and can reach a top speed of 250 miles an hour. Another interesting fact about the car is that the Guinness Book of World Records recorded the CLK-GTR as the most expensive production car ever built at that time, with a price of $1,547,620 Number 8, the W463 first generation. The W463 is the second generation of the G-Class in its 41-year history. The W463 first generation is the predecessor of the current G-Class, which is the W463 second generation. This first generation W463 transitioned the G-Class from its utilitarian stature to the luxury SUV model it is today. It had 12 petrol engine options and 6 diesel engine options, ranging from a tiny 2-litre 4-cylinder engine to a beefy 6.3-litre V12. The most desirable model is the G63, and it initially had a 5.4-litre supercharged V8 that churned out 500 horsepower and 700 Nm of torque. The 5.4-litre was then replaced with a more menacing 5.5-litre bi-turbo V8, which pumped out 563 horsepower and 800 Nm of torque, which actually improved fuel consumption and lowered emissions. The best or nothing, right? There was a 6.6 version of this G-Wagon, which was derived from a model designed for the Australian Army. This beast features 6-wheel drive, has the ability to deflate and inflate all 6 tires within a minute with just the press of a button, 5 locking differentials, and water clearance of 1 meter tall, which is double of what the Land Rover Defender has. Many cars have been called a monster or a beast, but this W463 first generation genuinely lives up to its name. Number 7. 190e Cosworth. It was produced from 1982 to 1993. Although the 190e was already famous by having over 1.8 million units produced in its production period, but there was a tuning company in London that made this car into an enthusiast must-have at that time, and that company's name is Cosworth. Mercedes wanted to take the 190e rallying and asked Cosworth to make a 320 horsepower engine for the aforementioned rally car. The stock 190e was already light and nimble, as it only weighs 1110 kilograms to 1300 kilograms depending on variants. So Cosworth's primary role was to tune up the power of the stock M102 fitted to the 190es. The project was known as Project WAA by Cosworth. The rally scene at this period of time was dominated by Audi with their quattro all-wheel drive and their turbocharged engines, making the 2.3-litre 16-valve appear outclassed. Mercedes was still adamant to compete in motorsports with the 190e, so Mercedes turned to the DTM, German Touring Car Championship. Cars racing in this championship, however, had to be based on a road-going model. Mercedes therefore had to produce 190e fitted with a detuned version of the Cosworth engine. The high-performance model was known as the 190e 2.3 16-valve. 3 world records were set at the Nardo testing facility in Italy. 3 cars with slightly different cosmetics had recorded a combined average speed of 154.06 miles an hour, or an equivalent of 247.94 kilometers an hour, over the stretch of 50,000 kilometer endurance tests, and establishing 12 international endurance records. Number 6. 230 SL Pagoda W113. The term Pagoda was inspired by the slightly concave hardtop of the car. It was produced from 1963 to 1971. The inline 6 produced 148 horsepower and 196 Nm of torque. All models were equipped with an inline 6-cylinder engine with multi-port fuel injection. The bonnet, boot lid, door skins, and tonneau cover were made of aluminum to reduce weight. The comparatively short and wide chassis, combined with an excellent suspension, powerful brakes, and radial tires, gave the W113 superb handling for its time. It set the record at the Animas Vertras Montour racetrack in 1963 at a time of 47.5 seconds, an astonishing feat from the peppy 2.3-litre engine. Many famous people such as Charlton Heston, Tony Curtis, David Coulthard, Kate Moss, Nico Rosberg, and the late Sterling Moss used to own this legendary vehicle. John Lennon also owned a dark blue 1965 230 SL, which went for sale for $495,000 in 2011. On a sadder note, actor John Travolta too used to own a Havana Brown 1970 280 SL until it was stolen in September 2011. Number 5. W124 500E. My oh my, where does one begin? This car is the reason Porsche still exists today. W124s are modern day classics that can suit any car buyer's budget thanks to depreciation. However, There is one specific model which value is noticed by today's classic car enthusiasts, and its value is currently on the rise as it is in demand, and that model is the range-topping 500e and E500. The W124 is the first Mercedes Benz generation to be officially referred to as the E-Class. Facelifted W124 models bear the letter E before the model, for example E300, and pre-facelifted W124 models and older E-Class models bear the letter E after the model, for example 300E. Over 2.5 million units were built from 1985 to 1997, making it one of the most popular Mercedes-Benz models ever in history of the 93-year-old German company. The 500e and E500 had a wider body and a lower ride height compared to the other W124 models to improve handling and stability. Better handling and stability is needed to contain the monstrous power generated by the power plant in both the 500e and the E500, which featured the M119 5-litre V8 that also can be found in the W140 S500 of the time. The engine produced 322 horsepower, 6 horsepower more than in the pre-facelift, and 480 Newton meters of torque across both of them. An AMG version of the 500e is created, and it is called the Hammer or E60. AMG bought out the 5-litre V8 into a massive 6-litre V8, giving it the capability to squeeze out 376 horsepower and 580 Newton meters of torque. Even the host of Up to Speed, James Humphrey, described it as the most brutal sedan ever devised. This was the car that forged the alliance of Mercedes-Benz and AMG as we know today. Number 4. 600 Pullman W100. Not all W100s are given the name Pullman. Pullman is a name attributed to the long wheelbase version of the Mercedes Benz 600. The Pullman was available in 4 doors and 6 doors. The 4-door features 2 additional rear-facing seats separated from the driver compartment by a power window. The 6-door version, on the other hand, has 2 forward-facing jump seats at the middle 2 doors and a rear bench seat. The 600 Pullman wheelbase is 3,900 millimeters, which also equals to 150 inches, and has a total length of 6,240 millimeters or 246 inches. It has only one powertrain option, which is a 6.3-litre V8 M100 that has an output of 250 horsepower and 503 Newton meters of torque.
I came back to my wife, I said, I'm getting rid of that car. She said, why? I said, it's haunted. I was driving it and Elvis suddenly started singing to me. I was just joking. And we often laugh about that.
Number 3. SSK. The Mercedes-Benz SSK is a symbol of opulence, and it represents all that Mercedes-Benz truly stand for, which is world-class engineering and utter luxury. The SSK is an abbreviation for Super Sport Kurz, German for Super Sport Short. It was the last car designed by Ferdinand Porsche before he left Mercedes-Benz to start his own company, Porsche. It has a supercharged 7.1-litre single overhead camshaft inline-6 engine, mated to a 4-speed non-synchro manual. The output was around 200 to 300 horsepower and over 680 Newton meters of torque. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour or 190 kilometers an hour, making it the fastest production car in the world at that time. It was used to win a number of races, which include the 1929 500 miles of Argentina, the 1931 German Grand Prix, and the 1931 Mille Miglia to name a few. Number 2, 300SL Gullwing. The first ever Gullwing in Mercedes Benz's history. Under the bonnet is featured a 3-litre overhead camshaft, straight 6 engine pushing out 240 horsepower and 294 Nm of torque. That's enough power and torque to accelerate the lightweight body from 0 to 100 km an hour in 9.3 seconds, and has a top speed of 263 km an hour or 163 miles an hour, making it the fastest production car in the world at that time. A total of 1,400 coupes were built within a 4-year period. The 300SL Gullwing was also voted Sports Car of the Century in 1999. This car has been raced victoriously in many occasions. For example, Werner Engel won the 1955 European Rally Championship driving a 300SL. Sterling Moss won overall at the 1955 Mille Miglia on a 300 SLR racing car, while John Fitch, driving a production 300 SL Coupe, won his class. On a side note, over 300 300SLs were counted in the parking lot of the annual 12 Hours of Sebring endurance race in 1956. Number 1, 540K Special W29. The 540K was introduced at the 1936 Paris Motor Show. The 540K is the revised version of the 500K, its predecessor. It was available in armoured sides and armoured glass to act as safety measures for the driver and passengers in the car, because during that time, the Germans were at war. However, the armoured sides and armoured glass only came in the 7-seater variant of this car, one of the largest cars of its time. The straight 8-cylinder engine of the 500K was bored out to 5.4 litres. It used twin pressurized updraft carburetors, developing 115 horsepower. Attached along the engine is a Roots supercharger, which increased power to 180 horsepower, enabling a top speed of 170 km an hour or 110 miles an hour. Power was sent to the rear wheels through a 4-speed or optional 5-speed manual gearbox that featured synchro mesh on the top 3 gears. Vacuum-assisted hydraulic brakes was definitely a key feature to slow down or stop this powerful, at that time, limousine. 12 units of special 540K saloon called the W24 were built for the Nazi hierarchy. These 6-seater convertible saloons were heavily armoured, and since they were heavy, they had a top speed of 140 km an hour or 87 miles an hour. After the assassination attempt on Reinhard Heydrich in Prague at the end of May 1942, the Reich Chancellery made sure that all ministers and leaders of alliance only travel in armoured cars while on the road.